So, why am I getting divorced after a year and a half? I got married at 28 and I'm 29 and I'm currently getting a divorce. And I owe it to you guys to explain to you why I'm getting a divorce because over 10 million of you guys watched me get married last year across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and a lot other wedding content that I put out. I'm a lifestyle creator, and so
Just real quick, that's always another pro or con, depending on how you look at it, about being an influencer, right? You put your life out there for everybody to see, for everybody to comment, and honestly, you really don't have no say so on what people are going to say, right? Because you put your life out there on social media for people to judge. But
you're gonna see my life, the ups, the downs, all of it. It is just a part of the process. But the reason why I do want to share why I'm getting divorced is because I got married to a narcissist unknowingly, and it was all built upon a lie. And I started talking about this on Threads and on my Twitter account, and I shared some of that to my Instagram stories. And since sharing that, I've gotten hundreds of DMs from women who are in the same situation or who have been in that situation.
y'all ain't going to like this, but that's your fault. That's your fault. How do you not know? Like, let's take some type of accountability here, right? This is just not just because she's a woman. This is for a man too. How do you not know? Man or woman, how do you not know the person you're marrying, you're ultimately committing yourself to till death do us part? You're creating a covenant with the person that you're marrying and God, for the biblical people out there. And how do you not know? There's no excuses, man. There really is no excuses in 2025. We got way too much technology. And if you're doing what you're supposed to do and you're actually dating with intent, you're asking the right questions. Before you marry a person, I always say this: you should know what they're like when they're mad. You should know what they're like when they're sad. Obviously, you're going to know what they're like when they're happy. You should know when it's like when they're going through a rough time in their life. You should be able to see all phases of a person ultimately before you commit to them. So for her to sit here and say, I unknowingly married a narcissist. Nah, baby girl. And for all the other women in your DMs, nah. Nope. Nope. I'm not buying it. You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew who you were marrying before you married them. At least I would want to believe that. She seems like a pretty intelligent girl, and I would like to believe that she did her due diligence and she did everything she needed to do. She left no stone unturned before she walked down that aisle or accepted the ring, at least. Right? But
and so many of them have told me, I'm so grateful that you've been talking about this and that you've been transparent about this because I didn't have the strength to leave. Now that I'm seeing that you are leaving so soon as well, I'm now inspired to leave. I do want to talk about this specifically when it comes to the narcissistic abuse part because you don't even realize it's happening to you while it's happening to you. For so many of us, we just didn't even know what was happening while it was happening. I'm going to share as much as I can. And I think it's also important for us to remember that there's a difference between narcissistic personality disorder and having narcissistic traits. Okay, those are two different things. So let's start from the beginning. So in 2020, I met my husband on Hinge, and I was living in New York City at the time, and I was working from home. I was working on Wall Street, and I was pretty isolated. Here comes my husband on Hinge, and he looks great, and he seems like a pretty decent guy, and he really sold himself as like this faith-based guy and like really serious with like really good intentions, and I bought it. Now, he was going to be starting a job on Wall Street as well at a different firm. And I like the fact that he was already in the industry, so he understood my work schedule because I really did have a demanding schedule. Again, very normal guy, seemingly decent guy. The relationship is good to start. Towards the end of 2020, I started to pick up on the fact that our values weren't really aligned, and especially when it came to faith.
and you still married him. You still married him. I don't want to put the carriage before the horse because I didn't let her finish saying what she was saying, but you literally just said you started to notice. There's always going to be signs. Men, when you're out here vetting a woman to be your wife, to be a helpmate, as the Bible says, there's always going to be signs. She's a 304, she's a 304. Women, you're looking for a man to ultimately lead you and potentially the family that he's going to help you create. There's going to be signs. So you already knew in 2020 that his faith wasn't as strong as he said it was. And there were a couple other things that didn't align. He still went for it. Unless she's about to throw a major curveball.
There were some things that weren't adding up, right? So I did let him know that, hey, I think we should break up. I think we should part ways because, we're just not aligned. Now, he accepted it at first, but then he kept trying to message me and get back with me and saying, I really don't understand. I really miss us and all of that. And then he starts to mention the fact that there's a ring fund because, he sees me as his future wife that he's already gained 14% on. And I remember saying to him, like, I'm sorry, what does that have to do with anything? And so that is an example of, I think it's called love bombing. I am somebody who had a narcissistic parent. So I grew up on gaslighting. I grew up on manipulation. I grew up on love bombing. So
Can't be serious.
I didn't really have the language for what exactly.
I hate this. I'm sorry. I hate this. Right? Just because a man is letting you know what ultimately reasons why he want to stay committed to you or why he wants to stay in a relationship doesn't make him a narcissist, right? And I'm pretty sure y'all have had conversations about marriage. He was just like, man, this sucks. I can totally see that conversation going that way. Like, man, this sucks. Like, I've been putting away thousands of dollars away in a marriage fund, a ring fund, because I ultimately really did see you as my potential wife. How does that make you a narcissist? Narcissistic? Or love bombing?
My soon-to-be ex-husband was doing at the time, but now that I do have the language for it, I see it for what it was, right? If you have broken up with somebody, they seemingly accept it, but then they're coming back and they're like, okay, but I have 14% on a ring fund, right? They're trying to like lure you back in, right? They're trying to talk about all these things that they do for you or what they're doing for you to try to lure you back in. Now, I was resistant to his efforts. At the beginning of 2021, I do start a new job, and that job is actually at the firm that he's working at in a different capacity, but we've been broken up. We're still cordial. Now, he's still trying to get back with me. He's inserting himself in a way that's friendly, but like also clearly like he regrets that, we parted ways. Again, I'm focusing on my new job. I'm just focusing on like getting my life together. He does become a source of support for me as I'm in this new job because he's already familiar with this firm. He knows how to support people and like he really is.
So let me guess, you took his help.
Friend to have. My birthday's in July. And yes, we're friends, we're not together, but he totally inserted himself into my birthday.
Nobody can't insert anything. I'm sorry. Nobody can't be in your life if you don't want them to not be in your life. Nobody can help you if you don't want to be helped. I'm a firm believer on that. Nobody can force you to do anything in this world. They can't force you to do anything. What probably happened, again, you went over to the firm. He already knew the ins and outs. He would have been a tremendous resource to get you acclimated to your new job, even if it was in a different department. And you took it. You took the help. You took the free help. Now, I'm assuming she's about to say her birthday was coming along and now he took her on some type of trip. We could start to see that she continues to say how she was like, no, no, no. But then ultimately, if it benefits her, she gives way. Can't be like that, man. You either in or you out.
In a way that was like, I'm her man, got me a cake and everything. And like, I appreciated all of those efforts because at the end of the day, like, it's great to have somebody who is looking out for you and all those things. But again, I wasn't cognizant of the fact that, like, boundaries were not in place, right? And this is something that you have to be very aware of as a young woman when you're dealing with these men. Like, if you have broken up with somebody, right, there is no reason why they should still be coming around in that capacity. And if they keep coming around under the guise of friendship, right, because they love and care about you deeply as a friend, you need to be very careful. Because I was very convinced that, okay, he keeps showing up and he's just around because, like, you know, he just cares deeply about me and he just wants to be the person that's there for me. Now, despite the fact that we're broken up, anybody who has shown any kind of interest in me, anyone who he knows is interested in me, he's creating obstacles for these people. He would want to spend like every waking moment of the weekend with me, and I just had zero space. This is another sign that you were dealing with a narcissist.
In which you could have controlled. I'm done watching this BS. In which you could have controlled. So end result is you still end up marrying this guy. You have your friends and family fly out to wherever, if it wasn't in New York, I'm assuming. People spent tens of thousands of dollars in resources, ultimately to watch you guys fail in less than a year and a half. It's embarrassing. And let me guess, she initiated a divorce. She divorced him. You got to be careful with who you guys are marrying. Obviously, we know from a financial standpoint, a lot of men aren't afraid of marriage. And I always tell people this. Men aren't afraid of marriage, they're afraid of divorce. This is what she's saying. And if she felt like he was narcissistic, she hasn't even explained, even if it was a year and a half, what she did on the divorce side. Whether it was splitting up assets, if they did purchase any type of home, if he had to give up his 401k in less than a year, alimony, I don't think applies unless you've been married for a person for a substantial amount of time. But that's the part that's not talked about. Ultimately, you got to be careful with who you marry. You have to, don't leave no rock unturned. And ultimately, again, nobody can force you to do anything you want. Nobody can force you to do anything that you don't want to do. So anyways, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. Let me know what you think in the comments.